Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's edition, number 33 of
Holbrook New Media.
This is Jeffrey K. Holbrook. Welcome to the audio feed from holbrooknewmedia.com. Today, Geoff and Jeffrey, the weekly catch-up. We hope you enjoy the audio version. If you want to see what we look like, I will embed the video for this episode at holbrooknewmedia.com.
the weekly catch-up. And we're back, and joining us, as always, is the co-host of the weekly catch-up, Jeffrey K. Holbrook. Hello.
Greetings. How are you today? It's a good thing to be here. I really look forward to these chats. They're really cool.
Yeah, I really do too as well. I'll just enjoy. And I was just saying we don't have a pre-show, but just before we switched on, I said I really do try not to come too prepared for these things, because then it's not staged. It's just like the way we set it up was two people having a conversation of just what's happened during the week. And I can tell when people say, what did you do during the week? And I think, no, I didn't do a lot. But really, when you get to think of it, when you just play around on your computers, you start doing your music, you're going out taking a few pictures here and there, taking the dog out, just little mundane things, you do end up doing quite a bit, don't you, really?
Yeah, it really surprises you. I did something unusual this week. I actually started watching these videos and I'm subscribed to this guy on YouTube. He's called the 8-Bit Guy.
The 8-Bit Guy.
Yeah, which basically he deals with a lot of older technology. Like, my first computer, which is near and dear to my heart, was the Commodore 64. And we were doing some pretty heavy duty programming and stuff like that on those. And one of the cool things about it was if you wanted to reset your computer, it took roughly 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Off, back on, reset.
Well, that's right.
And that was really cool. And it occurred to me the other day that I would check online to find out whether or not, the floppy drives they had of that time were extremely slow. And of course, the format that everything was saved in, I've still got, believe it or not, floppy disks from my Commodore days still sitting around. But those don't last very well. A floppy doesn't. It actually seems to leach some of the magnetic stuff away from them, so they don't work. But at the same time, finding a working floppy drive, like a 1541 drive or a 1571 or 1581 drive, whatever, they numbered everything, for a Commodore just isn't much it's not possible to do, but there's quite a few working 64s around, like Commodore 64s. And it occurred to me that I wonder if I could do a search and find cartridges, because they had gaming cartridges that would plug right in, just like an Atari 2600 or something. And I got to looking at there's all kinds of them.
Oh.
And I still have a working 64, so that Battlezone game where we played that had the line art black screen with drawn tanks on it. And then you shoot and you see the thing going across through there to hit the other tank, and you're trying to hit them. Looks like I froze up.
Stream didn't freeze at all. You froze then for a second.
Yes, I did. I was like, right when I put my finger up there, I froze up. That was funny.
Sam needs you.
Yeah, exactly. That's the way it froze up. That was funny. But yeah, that's what happened. But anyway, you can still get those cartridges. So I guess I could actually get a cartridge or two and bring them out and plug them in and play do some retro gaming very quickly and easily without having to worry about any of the aggravations of loading the games. And, you just plug them in, you turn it on, and it's there. It's pretty cool.
That's right. It's, funny you should say that. I had all the Commodore 64 and that. Years ago, I just piled them up and threw them all out.
Oh, that's so sad.
And I threw out the floppy drive as well, because I want that. Now I've had it, and it was accumulating stuff. But now you think, that would have been good to plug them in and retrospectively go back and play them. It went along the same way with the Atari, the 2600?
The 2600.
The 2600, it went the same way as that. But I remember I really did love the Commodore 64. It was the first thing I ever programmed,
Hmm.
and I was so thrilled that I wrote like a home accounting package on that.
Nice.
You know, how to keep it would be real primitive compared to
Of
what you can
course.
get, and that's what got me fed up with the thing, trying to make your own programs anyway. When it got to the stage where no matter it was so cheap to buy something that would do something that 1,000 times better than yours, because you just didn't have the time to do it. But I miss that innocence of the early age, which you just got so much thrill. You got a book on how to program it, and just to work on something that you spent a week or two developing, even if it wasn't that good, but you really got a thrill out of it.
Hmm.
And I remember I keep threatening to show you it, but I did want, and in '84, my first trip to Los Angeles, and then when I came back, I took a real modern video camera with me to Los Angeles. Then it was the first freestanding beta camera. It was huge, but it was without a backpack, because I used to have the Sony one with a backpack,
Hmm.
but this one was the only one over the shoulder, and with a flip out handle on it, and you went round. So when I got home, I wanted a title thing, and back then you didn't have anything to do titles for video. You couldn't do anything, so there was a little program called, was it Sprite Maker or something?
Hmm. Yeah. Sprite
Commodore.
Maker.
Yeah, that used to draw things. It was like, and you had to program it and tell it what to draw and do all these things. And so I was ever so clever. I made it draw a city skyline and with the words Los Angeles in there. And it took forever to draw all the things. And I thought, well, and in them days you could do things on your computer, but how did you get them out?
Hmm.
And there was no way of getting them to somewhere else. So,
Right.
well, what I did, I just plugged it into the back of the video recorder, because the Commodore 64 had an RF out, didn't it?
Hmm. Yes, it did.
So it didn't do the old modern direct like an HDMI. No, it was just the old-fashioned RF. There, you tuned your TV in to receive it. So tuned the video recorder in to receive it, and started doing some titles. And I look back at them now and I think, oh God, it looks so so corny. And I actually showed these to people and all that. But then again, back then it didn't. If you had video, it was impressive, wasn't it? In
Hmm.
'84 to show somebody that you had a video, whoa! But now, like you could have a 20. Like I remember, I had an hour's worth of tape on my Los Angeles trip that I'd edited out to that. But now, if I go to for 2 or 3 weeks, I would make sure the film didn't go for any more than about 3 minutes,
Hmm.
because that's just gets too much. But I did really enjoy the 64, and what I just came across in the garage last week was a big pile of books, and they were all on programming, the Mac, all these earlier versions, and I just chucked them. They were just not worth keeping, because I thought they're just taking up space. Put them in the recycle, and I thought they're just no good anymore, because even the way it was telling you they're not using that language anymore, it's just bypassed that. But
Hmm.
I thought, oh, gee, it's sad. He had so much fun doing it. That age of innocence was so good, really. Now they've got so much, they're nothing sort of that amazing for you on that. That's why we sort of like the equipment rather than what it does, I think.
Well, there was also this thing back then about you were the only one in your neighborhood that really knew about computers, so you were the smart guy. And
Oh, well.
yeah, I mean, because I had a brother that was into it, and we wrote programs together. But I remember once a guy was saying that they were getting indignant because whenever Windows came out and whenever these graphic environments came out, that he was complaining that, I mean, just real arrogant, like anyone who does not want to take the time to learn to program a computer doesn't deserve to use it. And so I said, can you explain to me the workings of an internal combustion engine?
He said
And he kind of
no.
looked blank and he said, no. And I said, well, you don't
Well,
deserve to drive a car.
no,
Well, no,
that's right.
it was, he was getting on to me because I spent a lot of time running around to people's houses and making menu systems on their computer, because they would turn the computer on and this little C would come up, and they were like, what's that? And so I was going around putting menu systems on my friends' computers and helping them out and stuff. I did the same thing with my Commodore 64 to make something on videotapes. I was transferring a bunch of old 8mm movies that my aunt had from that my uncle had taken years and years and years ago. And so I needed something to explain when a particular family reunion was or something, what year it was. And this was in the late 90s, believe it or not, coming up on 2000. And I was trying to think, well, how in the world could I put something on this VHS tape that I was, transferring it to that will do that? And I got to thinking, man, back in the 80s, I wrote a calendar program, and actually my Commodore 64 still worked. The 1541 disk drive still worked.
Oh, okay.
And I found an older copy of it that, I'm real bad about saving to make sure I don't lose things. So I had several generations of it I would save every so often, as I wrote the program. And I found one that I could just stop on the screen without any of the menu items, that normally you had, to go back and to do this and that, to where I could just freeze a particular calendar on the screen, because it will do a calculation. You just type in the date and it will do a calculation. There was this algorithm in there that will do a calculation on the actual calendar. So I would just bring the calendar up on the screen, and then I would play X number of seconds on the screen, because everyone knows that the family reunions were the first weekend of December and on July 4th. And so all I had to do was to put the calendar on the screen. And this was in the late 90s. And I used my Commodore 64 to put these calendars on the screens between the family reunion 8mm film video things that had been done. And it worked great. That was the last real use I had for the thing. But I mean, it really, really got the job done. Everybody loved it. They thought it was great.
I must admit, I used that trick with the Commodore 64. They had some program, and then it came up with a nice screen, and I used that as something that put some text in front of it and sort of got it cheated to make it look like it stopped. So whereas nowadays you just can get any old picture, can't you, on the screen and do a shot of it onto that. But it was just sort of cutting technology back then. And I even remember when I first had the first editing software that you sort of got. You didn't buy it back then. You just got a copy anyway, and didn't matter about it being illegal copy, because you could never do anything with it. So just looking, you couldn't. It was only meant for people who had all the right equipment anyway. Mm-hmm. But back then, and I remember, I think it was one the first thing of maybe Final Cut. I think the first iteration of that. But there was still no way to really get it out to anywhere. It wouldn't hook up, because the earlier ones, I know some of the ones we sold in retail, how they would work, the video editing would be, you would put your camera, hook it up through through this machine, and what you do, you play the video and says, I want this bit, and you go through, I want that bit. And then when you wanted to make it, what it did, you said press a button, it rewound the tape, went to 25 seconds into it, the first bit you want for 3 seconds, and you wanted the next bit that was 25 minutes into the tape, fast forward it, took 5 minutes to find that bit, stopped, recorded that, and so it was sort of like you manually playing and recording it. But that was one of the earlier video editing things, and they had a fantastic thing called a gen lock on it, which allowed you to do characters, the things on that. And it was, I was all fascinated. But I just think back now of the customers I'd gone round to their houses and helped them, and because I used to enjoy that. It was the customers used to really appreciate it. But I said to them, they said, I'm sorry to put you out and that. And I said, well, I'm not doing this because I have to for my job. I said, it is part of where I work and that. But I said, I really enjoy doing it. So I enjoyed spending time with the customers, because they spent the money on the equipment, which I couldn't afford at the time. Mm-hmm. But it was great to help them with it. But it really makes me shiver to think how much work they did on that, and now it's just there.
Yeah.
We just switch on, and it is, apart from doing all the fancy things, but it was just a real chore just to cut 20 seconds out of a shot here and put that to the end, and do something that now that you would probably do in 30 seconds if it took you that. It only take you probably 30 seconds because you hesitate to know, or do I really want that, or how long do I want it? And that's usually the only time it will take you to do that. But I still, though, enjoyed those times. It just makes, I do feel sorry for the people who never grew up in those times because they don't appreciate the technology. But I really think I do. Everything that I see coming out, I just really appreciate. Whereas some people say, so it does that. What's the big thing? Why doesn't it do more? And I think we get a really good appreciation of technology to see how far that's come. And really, like you said, such a relatively short time. Just think from 1990 to now, not a huge amount of time, but say people from 1930 to probably about 1970 probably never saw a great deal of difference, did they?
No.
Great.
I would say probably not. And one of the problems I ran into as well was that people, it seemed like you knew what you were doing so well, and you made it look so easy that their demands increased to the point to where something that you made look so well, but you spent 14 or 15 or 20 hours working on it. And then they want you to do that or a little more for them. And so they're asking you to do 24 hours, 40 hours worth of work. Oh, it's easy. You could do that so easy and so quick. And they had no concept. And this, again, was back in the 80s and the 90s. They had no concept of how much work it actually was just to get something to happen on a computer screen or, something like that. I mean, it was really, really a shocking thing. One time a guy walked up to me and handed me he'd seen a lot of the stuff I'd done on the screen, like with little flyers and things like that. I was the only guy around for a while at all that could do the flyer on the computer, or a church newsletter or something like that. And so he had this hand-drawn logo that he wanted for his business. And he just said, "Oh yeah, I need you to do this for me." I mean, it was just like that. And it was kind of like, okay, well, let me look at that. And there wasn't like I had a scanner at the time. It was just something I needed to recreate on the screen because he didn't realize I was using clip art and things like that. He just thought I could automatically do a custom job with what he had, and it would be easy because you make it look easy all the time. You come up with stuff like this every week, and it's what in the world. And so it never occurred to him that it was going to be a monumental task to get this picture, because I'm not an artist, to get this logo done. And then actually, it was before I'd learned to say no. And I have since. That was one of the things that taught me that just because I can do a thing doesn't mean I have to do everything for everybody that I am asked. It's just not, it's just not that, because I just don't have enough life for that. And so I went through all of this, got all this done for him. He was a little impatient to get it. I finally got it done and got it to him. He never even used it.
Oh, dude, doesn't that really?
It wasn't anything, because it was just so frivolous, and I made it look other stuff so easy that he just didn't really know how much he had really put me out to do that.
But they see something. Some people, though, and I don't think you're one of them, but some people expect, they get people around to help them with that. And some people think it's a bit of a chore. But I had about 2 decades with everybody. Oh, can you come and help me with that? And some people say, "Oh, why do you do that?" I said, "Because I enjoy it." And I said, "No, don't hesitate. Call me around. I'm more than happy." Because the thing is, when I was working in retail, you just need to get in there to understand it. And when I started in retail, I asked the boss at the time. He says, "Oh, how do you get to know all the products?" He says, "I'll soon show you." And so about the first day I started, he says, "Here's this address." So what's that? He said, "Oh, they've bought a TV and a video. Said, you're going around to tune it up and set it up." Said, "I've never done that before." He said, "Well, you won't be able to leave until it's finished, will you?" And so he sent me.
So you learned before it was, if you want to go, ever want to go home again, then you'll learn how to do this.
But it was right though. Once you're in there, you can't just say, "Oh, I'll just leave it." But once you learn the trick of one thing, no matter how the program, how it works, they're all the same. As I said, no matter if they're different buttons, you've still got to do the same process. And once you got that, and it was a really good learning curve. But I used to love all the little problems. And if one of the friends watching, I don't think she'd ever watch this, but she said, "I've got a problem with my printer." She had, remember the old dot matrix printers, and then you could get the real big carriage ones with, I think, about 130. You always think it's 130 carriages that had the big A3, just the rolling paper.
Yeah, those were the business models that just like are huge and yeah.
She got one doing her home business and was trying to do, her statements. And I said, "What's wrong?" And she says, "Well, come and have a look." So she'd got all these papers and about 40 sheets of paper popped out, and it was just like a little square in each top left-hand corner. And I don't know how we managed to do it, but it was the whole page.
Right. One character at a time down the left column.
No, this was just a miniature picture.
A miniature picture of that.
But it was just the page because it was not, and we'd set it so wrong that it was saying, "Yes, you're just saying put this per page," and we made and I thought it was just ridiculous how hard. And you thought, how do you expect people, just normal people, to do this? And even these days, like a lot of people say, I listen to Leo Laporte a lot, and what he says a lot of the time, he says, even now, desktop computers are not meant for everybody. He said they say they're easy, but they still need some level of commitment and intelligence to do it. So go for an iPad, what's a Chromebook, or all these things that are just the internet things that have nothing to do with anything else, because all the others need a lot of work and maintenance. But back then, as I said, we're just setting up the down printer. It was no plug and play. Like, okay, you've plugged it into the computer, but how do you know it's going to work? And then even if you had the driver, that wasn't enough on there. Sometimes in the early days, well, you didn't have a driver. You had to set all I've even forgot what they're called, the dip switches, didn't you, on the machine?
Yes, the dip switches.
Or else if he didn't do it right, it would all come out gobbledygook.
DIP, if I remember right, stood for dual inline position.
Oh, okay.
I think it's what that was. Dual inline position switches. I think it's what that meant. DIP.
and that's back before when they never had serial, but they were all parallel ports, weren't they?
The 9-pin and what was it, a 21-pin, I think it was, or something for the printer.
Snapped it, but tell you what, your cable never fell out, did it?
Oh, because they had those snaps on the edges of them and stuff. The first time I ever saw a new computer that was color-coded, the cords came with it, were color-coded. I think wasn't this amazing? Surely you can see that what fits in where, but no, they actually made this one purple, that one green, this one, to where the connectors would actually plug into that same color on the back of the computer. And I thought, wow, this is totally getting user friendly one way or the other.
Well, I've got a new Lenovo laptop, and their computers, the power cord has a bright yellow lining on it, so around it, so color coded. And on the computer, there's a bright yellow socket.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that doesn't fit into that.
Oh no.
No, it's next to it. It has nothing to do with that. So we get trained to think, well, if it's color coord, if there's something with bright yellow on the cord, and there's at the back there's a bright yellow bit, you just automatically think, well, that should be going in there. No, it's the one next to it that's got not yellow. That's for something different. I thought, why on earth would you do that? That would just make that black, because that really does confuse people when you just think, well, that's natural and it looks the same size plug, but it's just just doesn't do it. And because we've got loads of those at work, and we've installed lots, moving them and doing them, and we get caught every time with, oh, that's right, the yellow thing doesn't go into the yellow port at the back; it goes into the black port.
Well, I would say whoever designed the computer and made the case on the computer and the way that they color coded the computer was a different department from the people who bought the cords or manufactured the cords that would go through. And so the actual colors were not possibly known by the cord ordering people. And so you just end up with a whole bunch of different colors than what you were supposed to have, because again, the right doesn't know what the left hand's doing, or doesn't really care sometimes.
And I remember when when I was in retail and then computers sort of hit, and the big thing was the Prince of Persia.
Yes, I
Remember
remember
that game? That was on the Amstrad computer.
Yes,
And the
I remember
Amstrad was the first one that had a little joystick
Mhm.
that came with it. And with it had the Prince of Persia with it. And I said, "Oh, gee, I wish I had the money to buy one of them." And it had a huge 20 megabyte hard drive, and it was sort of state of the art. And you just think all these things, but they did sell because it was revolutionary and nobody had that sort of stuff. So
Mhm.
when you was in that sort of industry, you used to sell a lot. And it was about the same time with cell phones, where we were selling the the ones you had a backpack, and that was the first sort of portable one, and that was sort of fantastic. And then you've got the bricks, these huge bricks, and we used to have a Philips phone.
Mhm.
And if you could set them up for a customer, it would, you look so impressive, because the old analog phones, the earlier ones, the Philips phones, you had to enter a 16-digit code to set in their phone before to put it into programming mode.
Oh, wow.
But you had to get that done in 4 seconds, or else it would lock the phone. And so, and you had, I think you had 3 attempts. And after the third one, you had to send it back to Philips.
Oh, wow.
And so if you've been the
Yeah.
if you got it, but you just had to. But it was such pressure, because you think if you didn't get that right, because you used to, now you just get a SIM and put it in, but back then you had to do that and program each phone with the customer's phone number in that.
Goodness, that would have been a heart racing video game all by itself.
It was, but
It
said I was involved in that in retail, and you were sort of, even then, like you said, you was treated a bit special. You were the special person doing
Yes.
computers and mobile phones, and people were sort of too scared to challenge you and that, because I might have to go out, ask, they won't come over to your area and talk to customers around there, because they'd stay in the TVs and videos and all that, but they would stay clear of the computers and the mobile phones. But I tell you what, in the early days, it was quite a great business to be in, because I was there, and they used to, part of the thing, they gave you a mobile phone. And can you imagine where was it, the mid 90s or early 90s, having your own mobile phone?
No, that was unthought of. Yeah.
And at the time, the companies like your AT&T or Verizon or whatever, I think AT&T would have still been around then, wouldn't they?
Yes.
That's the one, is it? Yeah. So back then it was like our Telstra. They used to give a phone to each one of the people in each of the stores who looked after the phones. So you had that, and they gave it for free, unlimited. It was back then. One call would cost you $7-8 if you was on the phone for 5 minutes, but they gave it to you free of charge for you to use for work, for personal thing.
What a fringe benefit, man.
So you would go around and sell their business, because it was in the infancy to get people onto the network. Because you imagine, like now, before mobile phones and that, when people weren't home, and they never made any revenue, did they? Because I couldn't phone them. And then before, answering machines. But now, no matter where they are, they get a call fee. Really, don't they? Because if they're not there, it goes to message bank. They still get somebody still using the network and still being charged for it. So
it took a while for people's ideas to change about what devices were really for. Way back then, as far as computers went, in the 80s, they were talking about, I mean, I had people that got a computer, and then I would say, well, what do you plan on doing with it? And they're like,
I don't know.
I have a business, and I thought I was supposed to have a computer. Or if I get a computer, my kids will be smart. I mean, that was the two reasons why people bought computers back in the 80s. You had the geeks like us who were programming, but then you had that. Well, the same thing for phones. It took a long time it took a while for there to be a transition from phones being attached to locations to phones being attached to people.
That's right.
And so now
Yeah.
my daughter's generation they are totally phones attached to people. I mean, they're the people that are in their 20s now or whatever. I mean, they don't know anything else. The idea of a phone not having that constant connection, and it's not just telephone. It is their full
Oh,
computer.
definitely.
I had a friend that went to break for 15 minutes and actually filed his taxes
Oh, well,
while
it
he
was
was on break on his phone.
Mm.
And it's the same guy too that wanted a pizza delivered. And he said, I can't, get a pizza ordered. And I said, well, who is it? And he said it was the local pizza place there that, it's a chain, but they're a local place. And he says, I always get online and order this. And I said, well, why don't you call him? And he goes,
Oh,
what?
can you do that?
Yeah, I think so. Even the difference between online and making a standard phone call is foreign to some of these younger folks because they never bothered to do it.
Well, and I think it was this week or last week or something around there. It was the 10th anniversary of the iPhone from 2007 when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
But that really changed it a lot because before then, phones were used to make phone calls, as you said, and it was great. People phone, but not in the volumes that they do now.
Mm-hmm.
But what they were doing was, as I said, I remember Nokia when they used to be eating a bit. They introduced this phone that broke apart, that had a full keyboard with the screen on that you could type all the things. Never went anywhere because it was, it just wouldn't, nobody'd use it. But the thing was, there was nothing to connect it to. There was no internet to really do. Well, if there was, it would cost you hundreds of dollars to get on. It was bad enough with the cost of calls that you made. It wasn't until like when the iPhone and all these deals came in where you got $700 worth of calls for $15 or whatever. Back then you just paid a fortune for all your calls on that. But like you said now, and even I do that myself. And that maybe I don't have the rights to say anything.
There we go.
Yes, I said it must have something to do with oops, hang on. I'm on the wrong screen now. I've got you on there. There we go again.
There we go.
I said it must have been me saying something about the iPhone and that I wasn't authorized to say it, and they froze you. And I thought, am I talking to myself? And I'm glad it was just your connection. It just said your bandwidth must have just dropped out for a second.
What's funny is I'm watching the live stream on the thing, and I am over to your left on the live stream, and then you're looking at the proper monitor, I guess where I was at, to see what was going on, and so my side of the screen goes white, and you go and turn around and look at it, and then you do something else, and you look over there again. No, he's still gone, and yeah. It's really funny.
I say that to Rick the other day. I said, when I'm talking to him, because I'm the guest, I've got to look that way to look at him on the screen. But to you, and if I look at the monitor, I'm looking away from Rick. But you, it's the other way around. If I look at the monitor, I'm looking at you.
Excellent.
It's sort of like that. I'm looking, but it was good on that, and I didn't know whether it was the stream went down or just you went down. But what I was saying with the Nokia one, with the screen with the phone with all the keys on it, and that said the internet wasn't there to use it. And I think just after that, about a year after that one sort of failed, then it came to pass, and this iPhone came out, and I remembered seeing that, and I thought, how on earth are you going to have a phone that's just got one button and it's all on a glass screen? That'll never work, because you're so used to physical buttons. I thought, they're crazy. Well,
the touch screens were also not very good when they first started, and so you would try to do it. You would try to do that, and it would take a second for them to take when they first came up with the touch screens. So that transition, I really wanted one kinds with an actual keyboard you could push a button on. Yeah. Rather than those touch screens, because the touch screens were no good. They obviously got better.
And then at that time, BlackBerry?
Mm-hmm.
So, here's the one, and people were buying that for email solutions. And I remember people at work had these ones. Only the senior managers had those BlackBerry ones, and even then, yes, it was all the latest ones, but I really never met any one of them that really did use it successfully. Or ever sent it, or it never seemed to work as efficiently. It did the job just. It was good for reading them, but I think it was those keys were so small on them to actually compose things on it, and because it was an expensive thing, it's usually only the senior people got them, and they were probably the least ones who needed it. Probably more so the field team might have needed it.
Well,
but when that,
go ahead.
so I said, but when the the iPhone type one came in, where it was so easy to use, it was just such a revolution.
My brother, the first one I ever saw, my oldest brother, he works for AT&T, and he's the first. Had the first BlackBerry that I ever saw, and he still to this day now uses a stylus on his phone, because he got into using a stylus when using the BlackBerry years ago, and so he was completely successful, and he really enjoyed having the BlackBerry and everything. And then of course, they moved on to other things, but he used he still to this day uses a stylus simply because of that.
But I mean, they would have kept such a good market if they just kept up with it. That to accept that this thing that Apple did, that people were liking that and try to innovate to that. They tried that many years later, but it was just too late by then. They sort of lost too much of the market by then. Whereas I think they brought one out similar to like an iPhone, but that was only about 4 years ago or something. Whereas they should have brought it out much earlier, because they kept stuck. It was a bit like the Beta and VHS. That one was still sticking to their guns, that theirs is a better idea than that one. And unfortunately, they sort of went by the wayside a little bit. They're still there, but I don't know what they must have to have some sort of different things. I don't think they've got much of the marketplace there.
Well,
unless you're
we were having a discussion about why Beta failed, because what I understand, it was a much superior picture to VHS. And I heard this on a podcast. They said because the reason why the Beta failed compared to the VHS was because you could get a full 2-hour porno movie on VHS and it wouldn't fit on a Beta. But that's what I heard this on a podcast, and I was like, okay, how much space did a Beta have on it? Because it was only an hour or something, wasn't it? Or
oh no, you could get 3 hour, 180. Because I had a Beta record. I've still got them here, when the standard tapes were 180 minutes. It's just you couldn't get 4 hours because they refused to do a 4-hour one, because to get a 4-hour one, even in VHS,
right,
3 hours was the only with the good quality, and if you got 4 hours, it meant they had to have thinner quality tape to jam it into the thing. So that's why 4-hour tapes always jammed up in your machine, because there were thin quality tapes. And we used to get some of the tapes like people, why the TDK and the BASF, they're so much more expensive than these ones you get. They said, well, what they were doing, some of these cheapy ones, they were getting old computer tapes, the old reel-to-reels that have millions of miles worth, them cutting them in half, slicing them, and they would do for videotape. They just slice them in half and put them in there, and it was just really bad grade quality tapes. But that's why you'd get 10 3-hour tapes for $3 or something. Well, why did yours? They cost $6 each. Yeah, because it's a quality thing on there. But that makes sense though, because the thing is that kills anything. It's not the thing itself; it's what's around to support it. And that's, I think, why Macs are doing so well now, where they didn't in the past. Because before, like we're saying, they had not only a parallel port they didn't have, they had to have the SCSI interface to get the printer on there, and then you used to have to get the printer that worked with the SCSI port. And so in like an IBM PC back then, you could get a Canon, a dot matrix printer, the first ones of them, for about $250, which was great, or $300. But the Mac version was $799.
Yeah.
Because it was exactly the same thing, but that's what it cost, because they didn't make too many of them. But when once USB came out, that the same one fitted either of them, that really changed the marketplace. Then people started to think, well, it didn't matter the computer they got as long as all the accessories and that worked with them. And same thing with with beta. You go to when the video library started up, you used to have the sections with beta and VHS, and of course, 10 movies in the beta and 5,000 in VHS. So who's going? It was just they forced them out anyway. It didn't matter which was the best one. It was what's the one that can support it. And people have always said to me, a lot of different technologies, there's far better technologies out there, but there's no point bringing it in if people can't, we can't all adopt it. So everything we do, we've got to have backwards compatibility. So you don't want to have something where you can't play it on your old stuff on your new one. Like if you've got a brand new CD player that did the best thing that sort of blew you, but you couldn't play any of your other music, not one bit of music, you'd have to buy it again. We're not very happy. But that's what we're doing with DVDs, though, isn't it? They're going to DVDs, and because now the market's saturated, we'll call it Blu-ray, and it's much better quality, so people have to buy it again.
Oh yes, but then what's blowing all that? The Blu-ray probably isn't going to go as far as what it could have because of the actual streaming that's happening now. We watch most of our stuff on streaming. When it comes down to any type of movies or anything like that. And what I think's funny is that the huge difference in all these movies. Whenever my dad was a little kid, he used to go and for 10 cents, he could get him some popcorn, something to drink, and watch a movie when he was a little kid. Well, those same movies are available now for him to watch, either to stream or on DVDs or Blu-rays. Those same movies that weren't available for years, for decades.
Oh, that's right.
All the Hoppy, what was that, Hop Along Cassidy and all that stuff, and the old Johnny Weissmuller Tarzan movies, and all of that stuff. I mean, stuff that he watched when he was a kid, and it was just the most amazing stuff. Well, he lives another 50 years of his life, and they're not available, and then all of a sudden they come back again. Which new technology brought old movies back, which I think's really cool.
And it's so damn cheap. And when they bring them out, you can get box set for $20 that's got 15, 20 movies in of all the old ones. So they do things like that. But it's just, like you said, quite amazing, all the things you get. And I'm exactly the same as you with doing a lot of streaming. But it's only been, probably 3 years since, because the bandwidth 3 years ago wasn't quite as good. And that's what's holding it back. But like now you can, and that's pushing the TV industry, the selling of the TV, to get 4K TVs. 12 months ago, so why would you get a 4K TV? They can't transmit in 4K. Right. You've got to have a 4K, a proper player, which that's just come out. The one, and now you've got to get special 4K DVDs, and that's so they're re-releasing them again. But now you've got Netflix, that's got a 4K subscription. So if you've got the bandwidth and that, you can receive 4K things, but of course they've got to be the programs, but there still is quite a few programs in 4K and quite good ones that they put out there. So, and then when everybody gets up to that speed, and it'll just be I think you'll see the end of the free-to-air TV when bandwidth gets that much, because why would you bother all that expense doing this transmitting things when people just get what they want? You might say, this is the news and that. I thought you'd frozen then again, but then I saw you blink.
I'm good.
Keep moving every day.
Yeah, I try to do a shoulder roll or something every so often to let you know I'm still here. One of these days I'm going to fake you out and I'm going to go.
Yeah, that's all right.
And you won't know. No, one of the things I noticed too, and it just occurred to me today, back whenever we were kids and they just had network television, and you turn on your television and you watch, we had 3 channels here locally, and you would watch those. Okay. Then you got cable. And so cable was the cable company was the arbiter of what you watched. You logged onto the cable box or whatever, and then everything you watched on your television was through that cable box. Amazon is attempting to do the same thing now. You get subscriptions through different things. You can get it through these different other services,
Oh,
Cinemax or whatever like that. And then you can even put in a request, on a thing like a watch list for certain things, and they will scour all of your other subscription-y things looking for that movie and will notify you when that movie is available on Cinemax or on, whatever like that. They want to be your cable box, all the television, all of the, movies and everything you watch. They want it to come through Amazon. And it's interesting.
But as I said, like you guys you've had the affiliation with cable for decades and decades. Like I think 10 years ago, we'd never had cable.
Oh, really?
That was all only free to air and 4 channels. That's all we'd sort of had.
Huh.
So I think 10, 15 years ago, that was no more than that. It was before then. We never had any cable whatsoever. So
the first time I was ever really exposed to cable, we actually got it 25 years ago or so. I remember that whenever, in living in rural areas most of the time, I know when we first got married, we lived in town for about a year and a half, and there was cable there, but, in town. But the rural areas, again, 25 years ago, we got it and we had about 15 channels, something like that. And that wasn't too long before we actually moved here. And then we moved within several hundred yards of a cable company outpost. So we had cable when we moved. This is in the country, but we actually were close enough to one of their satellite dish outposts that we actually had cable locally.
But I've never had cable. Never had cable. So to me, really, when it came out here, if it was like you went in the early days, you had so much channels and you would have so much to see. But by the time it got here, as well, I had a look. So what can they offer me? Unless I was a diehard sports fan, and then you pay and watch all the live sports, all the football games live every week. That's about the only thing I could see it would be good for, because all the other programs that they used to, like in the day, they'd repeat the same program 4 times at different times of the day like they do. But I thought, hang on, this is the same old rubbish I've already seen over years. If they'd put something that I have never seen, like that's what the Netflix is great, because even though it's sort of gone off, it's not been popular for everybody else. There's a lot of things I haven't seen on there that you've never seen. So there's a lot of new. It's not just old stuff, but if Netflix only had, I Dream of Jeannie, Bewitched, Hogan's Heroes, MASH, and all those things that the cable tended to have, Mary Tyler Moore Show, all the old things that, you did like them in the time, but I'm not going to pay a premium price to get it. And even then, when they had here with when the cable, if you wanted the good movies, then you had to pay extra for it, $6 or $7 to get that. And so, by then I thought, I might as well buy the DVD that I can pay a little bit more, maybe $10, and I've got it all permanently. And plus, it would probably be a better quality through my system, through the hi-fi, than it would be through the cable box. But that's why they're offering these different things, because the only use I can see for a lot of people with cable is if they've got no antenna systems. They've got all that in there. But now you've got streaming, and as I said to you, my TV is not even connected up to an antenna anymore. It's because what I do, I quite often disconnect when there's a thunderstorm, because that's, if it strikes that and goes through. So I disconnected it once, and I've never reconnected it for ages on that. I've got one TV in the kitchen, and the only time I turn that on is when I get home at night, having a bit of tea and just watching the news. And that's about the only live TV I'd ever watch, is the nightly news, just to see how horrible the world is and how mean people are being to each other. And after you get depressed from that, you turn it up and try and look at something a bit more cheerful.
Well, with our where we're up on a mountain, and there's this big sweeping valley going over in front of us, really, the river. And so we're just kind of up here, perched up on this mountain, and there's really great signals coming through for broadcast digital television. And since we're so far out in the country, we don't get high def television. straight
Oh,
out
okay.
television. Okay. And so we have some antennas that we were using, but since we got to deal with our cable and our internet together, we just went ahead and got the cable too. But we get high def with the antennas.
Oh, okay.
And so and you get several channels more than what I thought you could get locally over the air, and because we get great signal up here. And so that's what's funny is we live out in the country and we have cable, but we don't have HD cable available this far out in the country. And so we get a better signal from those antennas than we do that. But at the same time, an interesting thing with streaming, though, can cause you some trouble. Remember I told you the other day that we were watching, let's see, what was it? Murder, She Wrote, Angela Lansbury. Okay. We got about 5 or 6 seasons in. I think we got almost halfway through it. And all of a sudden it wasn't available anymore on Netflix. And so they have these things part-time. Now, this is 12 seasons of Murder, She Wrote. I mean, that was a 12-season show. So we've watched things with 5, 6 seasons, things like that, been just fine. Everything's fine. But that's the first time they took one away from us in the middle. And they just took it away.
Maybe it's one of those things that it's an older one, and they thought, well, there's only one household in West Virginia watching it, so we got to have the bandwidth for something else. But it might have been that it wasn't very popular. But also, when they put them things up, they should have a promotional, say, we've got the 12 seasons on for the next 6 months. It's going to be there. At least warn you so you can see whether you're going to binge watch it to do it, or say, well, if it does go off, do I mind missing out? I'll tell you, this is a sad thing, though. Pity you're not in here. I have the other seasons for you. I would have the other seasons for you in DVD. Because my mother used to like, so I bought them all for Mum. So I've got the
appreciate
DVD.
that. Maybe we could stream it over a Skype call. My wife could come in with me. We could sit there and watch it. All of a sudden, there's a Skype call, and all you see is us going.
What season?
Because we're sitting there watching the show. Yeah.
It's like those people who do go to the movies and put them up onto, with a video camera recording the movies on that. So, but I'm sure that's what I just never get with YouTube is, like I said, when we do, like Rick and I doing Tech Down Over, we show an advert of Canons, just showing a few seconds of a Canon thing, and we get done for copyright things. So you can't do that. It's not good. And they give you a ping for that. But then people will upload these whole movies.
I haven't been able to figure out how they can do that. I don't know how that works.
Yeah, we get a ping saying, "Oh, we're not going to take it, but it's against cop." Well, I thought it's somebody's whole production. It's a whole, if you look on there, like a whole thing of Murder, She Wrote or something. And said, surely somebody. You know what I'm waiting for? This is another one that they haven't done it yet. They only ever did 2 seasons of Knots Landing on DVD. I used to watch that religiously in the 80s, and they haven't done the rest of it. They won't release it and do any of it. So,
well, there is hope. There is hope. Yes, because we had a show. I'm trying to remember what it was. We had 2 seasons of it. 2 seasons of it forever. It was a vampire show made in Canada. It was called Forever Night.
Oh, okay.
And they had 3 seasons of this show, and we were able to get our hands on the first 2 seasons, and I've had those for more than a decade. And then just recently they came out with a 3rd season. And so we got that. I mean, I just assumed evidently the first 2 seasons didn't sell well enough to bother. But evidently it's gotten cheap enough now to where they were able to, and they did go ahead and put out the 3rd season. And so we got that and got to watch it last month, so it's, it was a decade later, but hey, there we are.
But I just can't see why they don't, because even something like Knots Landing, they says, we won't sell much. Well, but in this day and age, they could put it on a website, say available pre-order, available in 2 months' time.
Sure.
And so after a month of selling it, if they've got 10,000 orders, okay, we'll make 15,000 of them. They keep selling. but we'll just make a run of how many people, because surely once if you've got the material just to make the DVDs, it's not going to be hard. It's not like you have to set up the printing press anymore. You just say, here's the DVD, here's the graphics to put on it. Everybody can do that, and said, well, if you don't want to, if it's a cheap thing, well, just one single pitch. You don't have to do a great deal on it. Surely that wouldn't cost you much to do that. And even if it did, you could put it into the price. Say, yeah, well, it's going to cost you $19 or $20 a season. You do realize for us to make a bit of money on that. And
well, the actual cost though doesn't have anything to do with the DVD itself. They're only a few cents, or cheaper now, I guess. They're making them thinner than they used to, so I'm guessing they're cheaper. They cost very little to make. What costs them is the paying someone to make the menu systems, the special features, all of the new cinematic stuff they have to do to actually put those out. And I'm thinking that's probably is what's been costing them, and that's getting cheaper than it used to be.
I can make a DVD menu.
Well, yes, you can. Yes, you can. But I'm saying they're not going to pay us to do this. They're paying, they're paying these houses they've always used. But that, I do believe that is getting cheaper and it's getting more accessible to people like us to have the technology to do those things. And so people can't demand the premium that they used to do the menu systems and things like that. And they could even do it in house. That's probably why this, thing came out, this third season of this other show came out, was simply because it's cheaper. The discs are cheaper. Everything's much cheaper, and the risk is not anywhere near as great as what it would be. And once they've got that, then they can run all kinds of stuff. But the initial cost is the actual making of the menus and the special features and stuff like that. That's the initial cost. Once that's done, it's just a few cents to reel off, per disc to reel them off. And they make big money after that, but they don't want to go into that initial cost. And as that gets cheaper, I think there'll be more and more available.
I think what it is with this one, it's maybe not the cost. It's just whoever owns it doesn't want to do it. And so if somebody else wants to do it, well, they have to pay royalty rights.
Oh, sure.
For the thing. And I don't think they want to do that. So
no,
if they, they would be, Viacom, that's the one who does that, did all that. So
I always remembered. I always thought that guy had a great voice. Viacom. Viacom. Oh shoot, we just did something over a Skype thing that had a brand name to it. We're in trouble now.
Oh, did we? Oh, no.
Yeah,
but
we said
Viacom. I mean, hey, we're saying positive things about them, and they're good shows because they used to be on everything, though, didn't they? Everything used to have that on the end of that. So, but anyway, this week we've got onto a lot of different things, haven't we? So,
well, yeah, it's all kind of technology based. Let me tell you that thing I had here talking about a strike in Hollywood. My wife saw something. My wife saw something online that said, Trump's about to be inaugurated here in a couple days, so. Somebody did something that involved saying that Hollywood, it was some people in Hollywood actually got together theoretically and said that all of Hollywood needs to go on strike until he resigns. And I thought, not so bad. We've got access to more movies than we ever have had in history right now. So if they didn't make any for the next 4 years, I think we'd be all right. I don't think that would really hurt anything. I mean,
that would actually be good for the industry because there's so much out there. There's so much rubbish that gets done. If there was a drought for 6 months and they didn't produce anything, the quality that would come out after they did, because let's face it, they can do that, but they're not making millions and millions of dollars. It's a bit like people always say with the gas prices, like your gas price is about $2 a gallon, isn't it?
Yeah. It's been it got up to $4, but now lately over the last months, almost the last year, it's been between $2 and $2.50 right in that area.
Yeah, well, ours is about $6 a gallon, and that's quite reasonable for
noise.
But as I said, but what we say is, if you had one of the big chains, everybody stopped going to one chain and nobody went, and they all went to the other one, they would drop their pants on the pricing.
Oh, I guarantee it.
It's a, but you can't do that. But it's doing it the other way in the Hollywood saying, "Oh, we're going to stop that," and then people will just have to do that to watch the movies. But there's people are not going to do that. Like there's also as well, Hollywood's not just it these days. There's quite a thriving film industry in other parts of the world, and even in Canada. They do a lot of things in Canada, don't they? They do a lot of things here now, and a lot of things in England and Europe that years ago, if it wasn't Hollywood made, well, don't bother. But now it doesn't necessarily have to be there. But I think they'll get a big shock, like when they had the director's strike. How long did that go on? But
it was a long time.
It slowed down, but didn't kill the industry. I can't even remember what they were striking for. Can you?
Well, they had a writer's strike. I remember one time too. I think that was back. Yeah, it was back in the 80s. It was a writer's strike, and so they weren't able to. A lot of the television shows didn't get full seasons because, the writers just walked away and stopped writing stuff. And it was clearly union stuff that had to be done. So, it was contracts and everything. So if they decided they weren't going to write, then there wasn't going to be any writing done at all because of the way the contracts were done. But to me, it's, I agree, with, contracts and have to honor contracts and things like that. But when it comes right down to it, they would shoot themselves in the foot so badly. Because Netflix, one of the things that has done too is made it to where my wife and I, I watch subtitled foreign films sometimes. Yeah. We watched one the other day about, it was in Sweden, and it was subtitled, and she doesn't care too much for the subtitled films, but, I don't have any problem with them. I really kind of enjoy them. And it was about landslides in the fjord causing devastation of these towns. And it was like a disaster film. Really, really well done. I mean, we've been opened up to, more than just English and American and Australian type films. Netflix has opened us up, and Amazon too has opened us up to these foreign films that are subtitled. But they're great films. And I think if Hollywood shut down for even 6 months,
it would just.
But they would lose their market share badly.
And even on I watch than you do, we look at YouTube a lot, and some of those people who are just putting things together in there, and they put these 5-minute short films together. They're so damn talented. If people like that, because somebody said, "Well, here's $5 million. See what you can do." The things that they put together with $500 is amazing. And just think with the talent, like I saw one there was this fellow and his girlfriend did it, and it was called Beyond, I think it was. And did you ever see that one?
Yes, I did. You told me about it. I went and watched it. It was great. It was really good.
It said he was just him and his girlfriend did that. And the people was amazed that there was no big studio behind it. It was all him in Premiere Pro or Final Cut, something like that. They edited together. But I thought, just imagine that was on a shoestring just for that. Just imagine if somebody gave him $5 million and said, and that in Hollywood would get you a 30-second commercial, wouldn't it? So usually like that.
What I think is interesting is the arrogance of Hollywood, because America itself has arrogance. We know this. The world knows this. But, we're the best. We're America. We're the best. Okay. But the amazing special arrogance of Hollywood, that they think they are worth more than they are now. They were worth more years ago, but they're not worth as much as they used to be. There's other people in the market now. And if they just shut down, I would really get a kick out of watching how much market share they would lose.
And that's the thing, is you can't, because as I said, then the industry's changing, like TV and all that sort of thing is. And you can't say if Hollywood does it, because Netflix is like its own
food
entity
group.
They're making their own content, aren't they?
Oh, exactly.
And I bet you they don't definitely, like we were saying about the foreign films, now on Netflix, if they put the languages on there now, so you can watch it without the subtitles, but in the language that they put on it. So a lot of them you can have 2, 3, or 4 different types of language, so you can watch it in your language of preference, rather if it's not English. And a lot of the major ones that Netflix do, they put the multi-languages on them. So
Okay.
it's as I said, you don't want to push anybody away from your brand too much for something that really what's it going to do? Is the president elect going to resign because they don't make movies?
No, he would laugh hard. I mean, he would really laugh hard.
But even then, no matter what you think with politics, you can't do if he would cave for something weak like that. How's he going to do as a president?
Well, they have thrown several things at him, and he'll go, "Yeah, I did that." Yeah, I mean, it's he would not bat an eyelash, and they I mean, to me, the arrogance of thinking that you're the only game in town, and how much people will suffer without new movies for 4 years or whatever.
Is that on Friday, the inauguration? Is that the 20th?
Yeah, it's the 20th. Today's the 18th.
So it's Friday. It's inauguration. There'll be him, his wife, and 2 people in the audience.
There was one. Yeah, I was going to say, I don't figure there'll be. I don't know. I think he said there was one band that had they canceled on them or something. They're having a hard time getting a prominent rock band to play the inaugural ball or something. I don't know what it was, but a prominent, like they need, bands and stuff to do these different things, these galas and different things like that. And they're having a hard time getting anybody to do it because the whole entertainment industry isn't going to like this guy. Oh, there was one other thing though, right before they go out of office, Obama's dog bit a girl in the face.
Oh.
And it was one of Malia, his daughter's name's Malia. It's one of her friends was over to White House, and the dog bit her. I mean, it nailed her right here, and I mean stitches. and there's a picture of her. Like it was on Instagram and some other places, and the blood was running down her face, and Malia's in the background going, like a big selfie with this blood running down her face. And she said, I think her message was this, was the dog's name, whatever he is. He doesn't like me or something like that. And then I think Malia put something on there about the dog not liking her. And she had to go to the hospital. Well, actually they have medical facilities right in the White House. And so they sewed her up. Yeah. They sewed her up right there in the White House. And then they asked on a news conference, they asked the guy what whether was there any truth to that or anything like that, and he started talking about these dogs have been such great ambassadors for to the people of the United States. I'm thinking, okay. And they laughed hard right in the guy's face, and he started laughing too because he was totally deflecting that question.
And what's the one who supposedly got attacked have to sign a non-disclosure agreement or something, a not-to clause or something. I bet you they got them to sign all that because it's the sort of thing that everybody would say, we're going to sue.
Well, she texted it from the White House, though. She texted it right when it happened from the White House. Picture of her with Malia in the background laughing,
Yeah, with the dog at her throat.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But accidents do happen. I'm glad that.
Yes, they do.
It wasn't too bad, but they said stitches though, so it was.
Oh
bad
yeah.
enough.
They said there will be some scarring. So if you have a scar, oh yeah, let me tell you about this scar. Oh yeah, this one, the president's dog bit my face.
Oh, that's right.
That's a battle scar right there. Now that's great stuff.
Yeah, they said that's that $10 million scar.
Exactly. And I have no problem with my college fund anymore.
That's right. There's been a few people who sort of covered things up like that anyway. But that's the thing is people, just before we finish off, people say things, isn't the world so bad these days? And I always think, I don't think it's any worse. It's just the moment something happens, we know about it. Mm-hmm. Whereas I know years ago, everything was still just as bad, but we used to live oblivious to all the things that went around us. If we weren't involved in that, nothing happened. But now we hear of everything. So like that, you would have never heard that in a million years. What went on in the White House? They went in there and they came out. That was it. You heard nothing of whatever. It was like a sacred place, wasn't it? You wouldn't even have seen inside the White House, apart from these two. But it was just sacred. But now, anybody will sell the story for if you give them enough money. So
well, when Franklin Roosevelt was in the White House for 3 terms, and I can't remember how many months of his 4th term before he died, no one knew in the United States that he was crippled and could not walk.
No,
they kept that a secret for 12. Well, it wasn't 12 years. It was 12 years, 3 terms, and then part of another one. For 12 full years, no one knew that the president couldn't walk.
No, well, try to keep the Ronald Reagan's Alzheimer's a little bit secret, didn't they? So,
well, Nancy ran the country for the last 2 years. We all know that.
But before they said, and when I always remember when he went to address the people outside in the White House.
Mm-hmm.
Is everybody gone? And he was facing the wrong way in the lectern. He was facing the White House instead of the
yeah, that was a good one.
And they turned him round, but that was before we knew. I thought, well, it's silly, but
Mr. President, that way.
But we have fun. But I think he was a very good president. I think for you, wasn't he, Ronald?
We haven't had the like since. I will say that.
No, and I just think he would. Just somebody. He seemed to really care about the place, and that's well. Let's hope this next one does you proud or does a good job. Because no matter what your politics are, I think people should just help whoever's there because you're stuck with him for 4 years.
Oh yeah, well, hopefully, we can say we will live in interesting times. That is for sure.
As I said, no matter what election it is, there's always going to be it's always been the case. Not everybody votes for them, and there's always going to be that. But in most of the cases, though, people get over it, don't they? But that don't seem to have with this one.
No. What's happening is it occurred to me the other day. They talk about how harsh and mean and direct he is about everything. He is a prime example of the average American. Harsh, mean, a person who is going to best you. I must break you. The person who's, our society has gotten to the point now to where it is in your face. I am the best. You're just going to have to deal with it. And every person you meet, you must establish your superiority over them. Media's that way, all this stuff. He is the first president that's come out that doesn't care about the politics, and he says what he thinks. If someone says something bad about him, he fires right back. That's the average person, I think, in our society today. People are way meaner than they ever were. There's no politeness. There's no, respect for anybody. And I think he's just a reflection of America. It's sad, but it really is.
With any politics, the thing is that's always so annoying with any of them is they spend half the time they've got to put on the show to get re-elected. If somebody just wanted to do something, they just don't seem to be able to do it. And say maybe they hate him enough that he doesn't, because he can do things, because say, hey, people will hate me no matter what I do, so I might as well do the things that I've said I've done. Whereas a lot of people that won't, because they know, I better not, that's just not the way you do these things.
Well, he's the first guy that's gotten elected being a grouch. I mean, because he doesn't care. He wasn't raised all of his life trying to be careful about what he said so he could get elected. No, he's never held office before. He is just, and I can't see him changing at all. If somebody says something bad, he'll fire back. He doesn't really worry about any of the rest of that. I mean, he's just there.
I think I'm going to watch the inauguration just to see the performance.
It should be really entertaining. I'm curious about who they get to play music for him too. I wonder about that. Supposedly it was Bruce Springsteen canceled on him the other day or something. I don't know.
It's me on the Korg.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, hey, totally. Hey, I got a Canadian friend. We know some people, somebody in Canada, or Australia. I know a guy in Australia, and he will totally play his Korg for you. And he says, "What's a Korg?"
We can get there by the 20th. We can get there. So
yeah. Oh, they'll fly you up here on Air Force One. I guarantee it.
And then he said, geez, horrible. Said, well, you didn't say I had to be good. He just wanted something.
Well, no,
there.
no. Okay, how much will it be? How much you want Americans? Say, 100,000 or so.
Oh no, I'll just do it. I'll do it for the love of your country. So just
Okay,
send me the
appreciate
airfare,
that,
the
yeah.
accommodation. I'll do that. So
Yeah.
because you've got to keep in with the good people. So do that.
And a
I'm
Secret
sure
Service protection detail for the rest of your life.
that was it. Anyway, on that note,
That's it.
we've been on the end shot for the past 5 minutes, and so this one's gone a little bit over because I think we started 10 minutes early anyway, and we're 6 minutes over. So.
Yep.
So I think we're about 15 minutes over anyway. So thank you once again, Mr. Holbrook.
Thank you, sir.
And we'll catch you again in episode. Well, we won't. Before we go, we just mentioned we're going to be dark next week because of other commitments. So we'll see you the week after that. I would get on here and just do a show by myself, but I'm sure I can't sustain it just talking to myself. I was tossing up about putting a picture of Geoff there and just talking to it and just move it up and down so it go like that every now and then. And just record that and just
Like
press
Max Headroom.
yeah, okay. So we'll see you back for show number 34 in a fortnight's time. So thanks again for everybody for watching, and bye for now.
Thank you so much for listening. Links for a free subscription, feedback, and everything else we do is at holbrooknewmedia.com. You can find all things Geoff Blanchard at geoffblanchard.com.